But I guess what I'm more asking is, you don't think like, okay, I'm gonna go out there, jab, 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 try to take him down. You're
Oh,
more
no.
just letting the fight come to you and see what's available.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you kind of know going into fights like where the person's strength lies.
Hmm.
But if they don't have a strength, yeah, to me it's just like in the fight you kind of got to feel where it's going. The last guy I fought, for example, was like a really good wrestler. The game
Right.
plan was to sprawl and brawl. You know what I mean? Keep
Yeah.
it on the feet. I felt like I had the wrestling to defend the takedowns and stuff. But then I end up getting clipped, taking him down, out wrestling him, and
Yeah.
ground and pound him to a finish. So it's like that's why I feel like you can't really get too hung up on a game plan.
Yeah.
Because it can change. You know what I mean, a split second. So.
This is the prize fighting business. I'm your host, Daniel Caycedo, and today my interview guest is the professional mixed martial artist and undefeated prize fighter, the 1-0 Ryan Charlebois. Ryan sat down with me ahead of his upcoming matchup at LFA 85 in Broomfield on April 3rd, where he'll take on fellow pro Andrew Lip. Ryan had a conversation with me about his martial arts journey up to this point, including spending time fighting on the East Coast MMA scene, moving out to Colorado to level up his training, and spending time living on his friend's kitchen floor in order to pursue his dreams. So let's dive into my conversation with Ryan Charlebois. Cool. All right, Ryan, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Yeah, pleasure to have you. So you're preparing for an upcoming fight at LFA 85 in Broomfield.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel right now?
Oh, I feel really good. We're like 3 hard weeks out,
Yep.
and then the fight week, so kind of just winding down in camp, sharpening everything up. But
Cool.
feel really good.
And you're going to fight Andrew Lip, who's a local guy as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anything about him? It looks like he hasn't fought for like a year. Are you familiar with his fight style or anything?
Not too much on his style. I just hear he's like a really durable, tough guy,
Sure.
athletic guy. So for me, that shows it's going to be an exciting fight, I think.
Yeah.
He's
and
not
you
going to
get
quit. So
Right, you get to show off your skills.
Exactly.
Cool. And your last performance was awesome. You had a first-round KO win at the end of the round there,
Mm-hmm.
and you even had to overcome a little bit of adversity early in the fight. So a good first pro fight, and now you're 1-0 and actually undefeated as a mixed martial artist overall. You're 7-0, including your amateur days. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what does this fight mean to you? It's on a big platform. It's LFA. They're coming to Colorado, fighting another local guy.
Mm-hmm.
What does fighting for LFA mean for you?
Yeah, so I was just super grateful to get the opportunity to fight for LFA, kind of with the record I have. I could
Just because you're kind of newer in your
exactly,
pro career.
yeah. I consider myself a little green.
Sure.
But I think like the team I'm with, the management I have, really helped me get that matchup. And I just really want to go out there and put on a good performance on that stage.
Yeah, and so you're training with Pound for Pound and Team Elevation.
Yep.
Who's generally your head coach that you have in your corner?
So I have 3 corners. Justin Houghton is like, he does all my pad work and my striking.
Cool.
Then I have Dave Zabriskie. He's my wrestling coach. And then we just added Cody Donovan, who's kind of like my ground and pound overall MMA eyes, I guess you would say.
It's a great mix. So
Mhm.
Cody Donovan, MMA, Jiu-Jitsu,
Mhm.
Dave, super high-level wrestling,
Yep.
and Justin, obviously a great striker. He's a pro kickboxer himself,
Mhm.
and I think he has some MMA experience as well. So.
Yes, yep. He has a couple fights.
Yeah, an awesome corner. Awesome corner. It's got to give you confidence as well, especially coming from, both these gyms. Pound for Pound has a wealth of pros and a lot of knowledge, but obviously Elevation, we have a lot of guys on here from that team as well, and
For sure.
a whole host of another level of pros,
Right.
LFA, UFC, Bellator guys.
Mhm.
So, I mean, what was that something that attracted you to this gym? Like, how did you stumble upon this combination of Pound for Pound and Team Elevation?
So it's funny, actually. I like when I moved out here, I was kind of looking for pro gyms after my amateur career. And I knew Caleb Hall, who you guys know,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, and he was living out here. He just got out here and started training with Elevation, and he was splitting his time between there and Pound for Pound at the time.
Right.
So I kind of moved out here with him. I was sleeping in his kitchen on a cot.
Oh, cool.
And I kind of just like adapted his training schedule.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whatever he was doing. Now I've kind of modified it a little bit. But when I came out here, we were just like going to every practice, and I was just doing what he was doing.
Neat.
So that's how I kind of got that relationship with the Pound for Pound guys and
Yeah.
the Elevation team. So
Cool.
it worked out, obviously. But
So you knew him from living in New York?
yeah, so I did like my amateur career in Georgia. I was 5-0, and I came back up to New York, kind of like deciding what I was going to do, like my next move, if I
Yeah.
wanted to go pro or really just what I was doing. My parents were kind of like upset with the whole fighting thing. And
Sure.
they're like, "What are you really doing?" So yeah, I got up there, and Caleb was training at an American Top Team affiliate gym. and I had known the people that ran that gym, and they asked me to come in and do the wrestling coaching.
Cool.
So I started coaching there, and I went and cornered Caleb for one of his fights, and then another guy on the team in Long Island. And I was sitting in the corner there, and we went 0-2 that night. I just was getting that itch. I was like sitting there. It was a very the best amateur run show I've ever seen. I was like, man, I would really like to be fighting, not cornering. You know what I mean?
Right.
So 2 months later, I took a fight. I bumped up in weight for a title, just to kind of see if I still wanted to do it. I ended up winning that fight, and that's where I kind of decided all right, I think I'm done with the amateur. I want to see how far I can take this. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by 5280 Wealth Management and their financial coaching program. For just $249 a month, you can add your own financial coach and advisor to your team. A financial coach at 5280 Wealth Management can help you analyze your cash flow, create a budget, a savings plan, and invest your money to reach your wealth building goals. 5280 Wealth Management assists you in aligning your values with your goals and then building a plan to achieve them. So take control of your finances and your future with 5280 Wealth Management. Visit 5280wealthmanagement.com/financial coaching to learn more and use code TPFB at checkout for 10% off your first month's service. Yeah, it's a good way to go out, winning a title, winning an amateur title. So you took that fight at middleweight, the fight that you stepped up for?
Yeah. The training up there was kind of I hate to say I was training myself, but I kind of was waking up in the morning before work, hitting a heavy bag, going to work, getting off, doing just kind of specific drills. Not really great work. Didn't have a ton of partners up there.
Right.
So I was just kind of making do, and I figured not having to cut weight would be just one less thing
fair.
I had to worry about.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
I felt confident in my skill set. I'd seen that guy fight, and
Nice.
so.
And Tapology likes it. They've got you as the #1 ranked middleweight in Virginia.
Yeah.
And you said that was your only fight at middleweight, so
Right.
I mean that bodes well for you. I think it's more speaking to your amateur career in general, though, that you were undefeated
sure.
throughout. So when you were coming to Colorado, that's something you were looking for as far as a bigger team, more training partners, and kind of that pro approach.
Yeah, so the gym I was at in Georgia, like I said, I felt like I was trained well enough, but there wasn't a lot of high-level pros, no one in the UFC.
Yeah.
And I knew if I wanted to take it to that next level, I had to be surrounded by at least like-minded people, let alone people in the UFC, LFA,
Right.
like you're saying. So I was looking through a couple different academies, and honestly, the connection I had out here with Caleb was just kind of so I was like, at least I know one person out here. So I decided to just wing it. And
I love it.
now I love it, yeah. So.
Jump in.
Yes, sir.
Cool. And immerse yourself. I mean, that's another kind of common theme with people that seem to be having success in their careers that, at one point they were like, I'm going for it. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to immerse myself. And, whatever happens. I'm going to live in someone's kitchen on a cot to make it work.
Yep, for sure.
That's cool. So you mentioned, you were training with both these gyms and you've kind of customized your training schedule a little bit more than when you first moved out here. So if you can paint me a picture, kind of what does it look like Monday through Friday or Saturday or whatever your schedule is?
Yeah, so most days it's 2 or 3 training sessions. Our pound-for-pound training is usually Monday, Wednesday, Fridays in the AM. And then we have the team pro practice elevation that I make every day. That's at 1 p.m.
Okay.
So those are the 2 mandatory, I guess you would say. I'm at those all the time. And then at night, I kind of have some wiggle room, however I'm feeling, if I want to go do some drills, if I want to do some pad work. But consistently pound for pound. And then the elevation practice right after.
That's a pretty full-time schedule.
Yeah, for sure. That was I've moved out here with the intent to train full-time.
Cool.
I figured there's not really a point in moving out here if you're going to
Hey, I love
do
it.
it halfway. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, so morning and then a brief break and then you're back at pro practice in the early afternoon and then kind of flexible at night.
Yeah, that kind of is the one that always changes, I would say.
Okay.
The night practices, so.
Cool. So in the morning, pound for pound's primarily striking, right?
Yeah, it's honestly we just run it like a Muay Thai gym. There's not really a ton of MMA drills there, I would say,
Sure.
but it's great for my stand up to get that conditioning. Justin is very into sport specific conditioning, so we usually do an hour of Dutch type drills, which is good. Body conditioning, all that, and then we'll end with 20 to 30 minutes of actual cardio conditioning. So.
Nice.
It's all sport specific. It's really good.
Yeah, and
good
the partner
push.
drills help you kind of get better at picking your shots, landing on an opponent as opposed to working on the bag where you're not going to get quite as
for sure.
drilled.
You got a good look defensively too, I feel, to be able to catch stuff and see stuff how it's coming to you. So
absolutely,
it's very important.
Cool. And pound for pound's neat because you get a bunch of different looks. I mean, you said it's run like a Muay Thai gym, like you said, but a lot of them are coming from different backgrounds, different styles where if you are drilling partner drills, then you're going to get those different angles, those different looks. And yeah, like you said, it's only going to benefit you on the defensive end.
For sure. Yep.
Sweet. So what about grappling? Do you get any work in with that during the week?
Yep. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do jiu-jitsu with Cody in the mornings. He does it's like just a no-gi grappling class. We do some live rolls here and there. But that's really the only like strict jiu-jitsu, I would say. The elevation pro practices, we do a lot of like MMA type grappling,
Right.
Which I think is kind of more important. It's good to get those jiu-jitsu reps in, but we're fighting MMA at the same time, so you need to be aware of the positions. You can do damage and take damage at the same time too. So
yeah, and you're doing no-gi, so that's very sport-specific again. And then the MMA practice is kind of where you're blending it all together, blending the striking in with the grappling and getting cage work and all that good stuff. Cool. So, I mean, have you found that the moves paid off? Like, do you think the investment was worth it so far?
Yeah, for sure. I obviously, like you said, my last fight, I kind of overcame some adversity. But I was super well prepared that camp. I feel like I kind of didn't show all I've been working on and everything. So that's what I'm looking forward to with LFA. Kind of not get clipped in the first 5 seconds. And
Sure. So this fight coming up, LFA, it's on April 3rd. It's going to be at Broomfield First Bank Center. So I mean, it's a big venue. You know, it's a cool event. They set it up well. Have you fought in a venue or like on this stage this big, even in your amateur career?
No, so I would say my last amateur fight was like the biggest stage I fought on in Long Island. It was at some theater. But that's what I'm with like the whole production they were putting on. That was kind of to me like, well, I wanted to fight for them.
Yeah, right.
The last one was obviously at that Stampede. That wasn't a super big arena or anything. But still like good production. But this one, like you're saying, is a really big platform, big arena. Yeah. It'll be full. I mean, I'm very excited for it. So. Yeah.
And like you said, it's a big opportunity. I mean, Colorado Combat Club, you know, they're doing a great job. They're kind of a newer organization, but you know, it's Denver specific.
Right.
LFA's a regional, if not a national show, you know, a platform to the UFC. So you know, getting on it this early in your pro career is, I mean, a vote of confidence on their end, but also a testament to your amateur career and the work that you've put in up to this point. People see the potential there as a pro even.
Right.
So, I mean, you mentioned your manager and your team kind of helped you get this opportunity. Is your manager local? Like, did you get him when you moved here?
Yeah, so I actually just got him recently after this last fight.
Okay, nice.
We were kind of like looking for fights, just me and my coaches at this time, and nothing was really like popping up. No one was confirming or anything. And I had a couple people tell me even before my my pro debut, management something you might want to look into. They kind of steer you the right way, get you correct fights and stuff like that. So I had known a guy when I was an amateur fighting in Virginia. He ran that Cowboy Fight Series promotion. And we were kind of always in contact. He wanted me to fight for them, but he knew I was going pro, moving out here, and he works with Sucker Punch. So that was kind of the connection, and I knew that obviously Sucker Punch is a huge name in the business. If I wanted to get management that would like steer me in the right direction towards the UFC and those big name promotions, that would be the one to do it with. So I signed with them like a month ago, I believe.
Wow, and it paid off immediately.
Yeah, so and he was like, we're gonna get you on that LFA card, and I was like, okay, and then like a day later I was on it. So
wow,
it was pretty sweet.
And is this a multi-fight contract? Is it just one fight?
With LFA, it's one fight.
One fight, okay. So one fight with LFA, you know, should you win, probably opens up opportunity to keep fighting for them, especially when they're in this area. Neat. And is that something where, obviously, you know, you're not averse to traveling? You fought in Georgia when you lived in New York. You fought at the New York promotion. Fighting now in Colorado. I mean, is that something where you would take an opportunity to go fight someone else in their hometown? Like LFA, you know, they're often in Minnesota, they're in California. Would you take that opportunity?
Oh, absolutely. I'm like, even the last one, I consider that guy, my opponent was a hometown guy.
Yeah.
My whole amateur career, we were always like traveling out of state to go fight the hometown guy.
Cool.
So that's nothing that like I'm not used to. I've never been the like hometown, you know what I mean, hero or anything. So I kind of like that though, going into enemy territory and disappointing the crowd.
That's
a little bit, so.
And you don't have to sell tickets as much.
Exactly. Yeah, that was never like a stressor for me. Now, obviously, you know what I mean, you got to worry about that a little more.
Sure.
But coming up as an amateur, that was never something. They're just like, yeah, just come in and fight our guy. So
yeah,
it's like, okay.
Cool. So you're building this team around you here in Colorado now. Like you said, Cody Donovan, you got Justin Hooten, Dave Zabriskie, and then you've got your manager as well. What else does it look like? I mean, do you have other people involved? Like, are you picking up like nutrition or anything like that, or diet, or do you generally take care of most of it yourself, like when you were in New York?
Yeah, so the nutrition stuff, that like since I started has kind of been something I've been super serious about.
Really?
I figure that's kind of something that gives me an edge over people, to be honest with you, is keeping that in check year round. Even if I do, like kind of screw off here and there, it's with like clean organic food.
Sure.
So yeah, that's something that I stress very highly.
And you do it yourself?
Yeah, yep.
And how did you like learn about that? How did you learn what works well for you?
So honestly, it was like a ton of research. My old coach in Georgia, he kind of knew some of the Lockhart guys, and I kind of got on their weight cutting protocol and all that, and kind of he did a seminar at the academy I was at.
Oh, cool.
And I kind of that was obviously only an hour, so then I did like the research on my own, and then since then I've been doing my own weight cuts and rehydration and everything. I've always felt good, so kind of like if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Right.
So.
Well, and the information's available. It's out there. It's just really comes down to you seeking out that information, retaining it, and then having the discipline to implement it.
Right. You definitely got to like play with some stuff, I feel like. But like you said, the information is out there. I feel like lots of people just don't take it upon themselves to look at it. Or if they do, they don't, take it upon themselves to implement it into their life. So.
Right. Well, it's easy, if someone else is holding you. It's not easy, but it's a little easier if someone else is holding you accountable than if it's all you trying to say,
For sure.
I should eat this, I should eat that.
To me, like I said, it's like a mental edge. I know a lot of people are like screwing off with that stuff, especially after fights or in between their fight camps.
Sure.
And to me, that's just like another thing I feel like I can get one up on my opponents with. So
absolutely. And it sounds like you're training year round then.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Do you have to have a job to supplement this?
Yeah, yep. So I've had a ton of weird jobs. Right now I'm overnight truck driving.
Nice. Wow.
So yeah, it's kind of, you got to balance everything, but I'm definitely not at a point where fighting. We'll support my bills and all that,
you've only had one pro fight.
Right.
Like an 18-wheeler?
Yeah.
Damn, so you have your CDL?
Yeah, Class C.
Wow,
yeah.
Okay, cool.
So
what are those hours like?
So it was supposed to be like 5 to 4 in the morning.
Okay.
And I'm getting lucky, and we're not usually working until 4 in the morning.
So it's local driving, though? You don't have to drive out of state?
No, not out of state. We drive, like the farthest we go is Colorado Springs, so not bad. But we're usually off by like midnight or 1.
Okay, and then go straight to sleep?
Yeah, get back, try and like just fall asleep as quick as possible, get up to train the next morning.
Ooh,
so
nice.
Yeah, it's been working out pretty good though. I feel fine so far. So
yeah, I mean that's an ideal schedule as far as a side job that you have to support your pursuit of passion.
A lot of the guys do like the Uber and that kind of stuff because it's flexible. But my thing was like I wanted to be able to train all throughout the day. If I have to take like a break here and there throughout the day, I can do that because I just work overnight. So
probably get paid a little bit better too.
Exactly. Yep.
Nice. So are you still living in Caleb's kitchen?
No, so I did move out of the kitchen.
Cool.
I went home for the holidays after that last fight, and I slept in a bed again. And I just came back here, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to continue to sleep on a cot. So I moved into a house with a couple of the other fighters from Elevation.
Nice.
So
one of Neil Magny's houses?
No, this is a Root.
Yeah, Root.
Caleb Crump are my roommates. Yep. So they very like-minded people. We all kind of got the same mindset, same goals. So it's very good.
Root is dedicated for sure.
Absolutely. Yep.
Cool.
He's helped me a lot with like recovery and all that, just being around him.
Yeah, when he was on the podcast, that's what he was talking about, just his approach to that. I mean, very systematic and almost scientific,
Yeah,
and then
for sure.
He was saying how Alistair Overeem's even helping him kind of pick that game up one notch further.
Yep, for sure.
Neat. So your diet and nutrition, you take care of yourself. You kind of pick that up over time. You had the exposure to Lockhart and Leith. What about like road work? Do you feel like that's necessary for you? Do you feel like your cardio is hit enough when you're doing your sessions in the morning at pound for pound and that sport-specific focus?
Yeah, so like my whole career, that's pretty much what I've done is the sport-specific stuff.
Nice.
I grew up wrestling, and that was a lot of like road work, just run. And I just never felt like it like super carried over into the wrestling. I felt like I was in the best shape if I was just wrestling like all the time. Same kind of thing I feel like for MMA. But recently Justin Hooten has been getting me on some road work.
Okay.
But again, more like sport specific. We're more like doing sprints. We just did like a run at Red Rocks, but that was like stairs, you know what I mean?
So recovery to get the heart rate down in between rounds more so than just building this baseline from long distance running.
Yes, he wants us to be able to like explode, recover. I think that translates way more into fighting than like you're saying just running 5 miles at a steady pace.
Yeah, and I mean, especially as a pro, when you have the 5-minute rounds, it's not, I mean, the lighter weight classes maybe, but generally it's not like you guys are fighting 5 minutes straight. There's a couple bursts, maybe some exchanges, and then, kind of figuring out those angles and re-engaging.
For sure, yep.
Neat. So you do a little bit of road work, diet and nutrition. What about recovery? What does recovery look like for you? Doesn't sound like you have too much time for it.
No, but that is another thing that I like stress super highly. Again, with like the one-up on my opponents, I feel like people don't really take that into consideration. Very big into like stretching every night.
Oh, good.
I've had a couple people like give me crap for I'm like super into the cold stuff. I love like cold showers, cold baths. I don't do the cryo too much. I feel like it's not cold enough, honestly. But the cold, I would say, is like my biggest number one recovery thing.
So like, are you waking up and taking a cold shower?
Yeah, yep. I do a 5-minute one in the morning, and then usually like ice bath, more of a bath at night. Where I try and like soak the stuff. So, but I think it's really good. I think like keeping your mind calm during that kind of stuff like carries over into fighting again. So
yeah,
everything for me, like I want it to be able to translate to fighting. So
yeah, nice. I mean that full-time approach, right? Like you said, immersion.
Exactly.
Cool. So so that's recovery, diet and nutrition. You got your night job. Does that give you healthcare?
Oh no.
No. Okay.
But
so what do you do like in between camp for that?
For the
Healthcare? Just hope you don't get hurt?
No, I'm still 24, so I'm on my parents right now. So
you're a young man.
Yeah, I'm young.
Obamacare takes care of you.
That's right.
Cool.
So I'll have to figure that out in the future, but
got a couple more years.
Yeah.
Neat.
That's definitely something that like gets brought up with the fighters for sure. Is like the
absolutely.
injuries and healthcare.
Well, so I mean, if my understanding is correct, the way it works is healthcare is covered if you're hurt during fight night. But that's it. I mean, during the camp, you're on your own.
Correct. Yeah. So. Yeah, I've heard like a lot of people, they'll kind of like, let's say they get an injury during camp, they'll kind of like be like, oh, this happened in the fight.
Yeah, just got to take the fight and take care of it afterward.
I mean, luckily I haven't had any serious injuries yet. Like I said, I'm pretty on top of the nutrition, the recovery.
Right.
I think that helps a lot.
Absolutely.
If I get something where I feel like it starts nagging, I'll really address it right away.
Yeah.
I don't like to like stew on it.
That's smart.
So yeah.
Cool. And then you got your manager recently. Did you have a manager at all during your amateur career, or were you finding those fights on your own?
Yeah, it wasn't. It was like my coach, I guess you would say. But
Okay.
he wasn't really a manager, obviously.
Yeah.
He just kind of knew people around the East Coast and was lining up fights like that. So
you never really had to go out and find your fights. Your coach handled it there, and then how did you get this last fight?
That was just kind of brought to us. Justin and the people at Pound for Pound Elevation knew the guys at Colorado Combat Club. And they lined it up as a debut.
Justin knows everyone too.
Exactly. Yep.
Cool. So you kind of always had your coaches taking care of it, and then now that you're a pro, you got your manager right away, so you can just focus on what you're good at: training, eating, living your life the right way.
Exactly. I felt kind of not bad about it, but that's not my coach's responsibility to find me fights.
Yeah.
I want them to focus on me and my training.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Not getting me good matchups and all that. So I think the manager's definitely worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So take me back. How did you get to this point? 1-0 as a pro, 6-0 as an amateur. Kind of fighting all over the East Coast. Now you're in the Midwest, gonna try to build your base up here, your fan base here.
Yep.
When did you first start martial arts?
So, like I said, I grew up wrestling. That was kind of my like introduction to it, I guess you would say.
How old were you when you first started?
I was in like 6th grade.
Okay.
So
nice.
Not like one of those pee-wee wrestlers, but yeah, I think it was a good time.
I started in high school, and I used to always think, oh man, if I had just started in middle school like those other middle school wrestlers.
Yeah, I had the same thoughts for sure. But I think that's what helped me like transition to MMA. I finished my high school career kind of like feeling like I didn't accomplish everything I wanted to. I had some colleges, like D3, D2 colleges, that wanted me to come wrestle there, but to be honest, I hated school. Like going through high school, I was just, liked it for the wrestling. And so I was like, do I really want to go for 4 years and wrestle? Or do I want to? I knew someone down south that was running an academy, and he had like hit me up about potentially coming down to train.
Just randomly.
He knew I was a good wrestler. Yeah. My senior year of high school, I kind of got in with some of the state troopers in New York, and they were teaching me like some jiu-jitsu. So that like sparked my interest in the like MMA. Before that, I hadn't really like watched it a ton. Just wrestle.
Where are you living at this time?
This is in New York.
Okay.
So upstate New York. So when I got that offer to go down there, I kind of just was like, yeah, like I'll go see if I like it, you know what I mean? And same thing down there, I was living in like super weird situations. I was living like in an office, my car, but just training full time, same kind of thing, and just fell in love with it. Got like a good relationship with the people down there, and they kind of, as soon as I started fighting that first one, I just like fell in love with it.
So how long did you train before you fought?
I think my first fight, I was training for like 6 to 7 months. It was something that when I went down there initially, I was like, yeah, just sign me up, like put me in. Because I thought I had the wrestling background.
Right.
And I started sparring with people that knew how to wrestle as well and all the other arts. And I was like, oh, I don't know anything. So.
Sure. But you felt confident enough. I mean, you felt like you were hanging with them at the very least, and that your skills, your foundational skills were would lead well to fighting.
Yeah, I had a lot of people telling me that like I had a really good base. I think the
Mhm.
wrestling is like big in MMA to kind of like determine where you're fighting and stuff. And they're like, yeah, if you just get your striking on point, you know, you're going to be like hard to deal with.
Cool. So from the beginning, that was a focus, like round out the skill set.
Yes, that I was never like one of those guys that was like, oh, I'm just gonna like out wrestle everyone. And
right.
I saw right away that you need to be well rounded in this game,
Cool.
especially if you want to go anywhere with it. I'm sure there's people that can win some amateur fights. You know what I mean, just wrestling or just being a striker.
Damian Maia's got a fight coming up. You know?
Right. There's exceptions for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it's a smart way to do it. I mean, recognize what you're good at. You're good at the grappling. You're good at the wrestling, but round that out. Try to add the striking to it.
Right.
So was this like an MMA academy?
So it was actually a Renzo Gracie academy.
Wow.
He was a black belt from Renzo Gracie. So I was wearing the gi every day, doing jiu-jitsu every day. Again, that was something I never really like dived into. I was just doing some no gi like chokes and stuff with those troopers. But in the gi, I think it taught me a lot of like my base on the ground.
Right.
He had me starting on my back a lot, stuff like that. I was never comfortable as a wrestler, obviously being on my back.
Right.
He was like, yeah, your first year, I just want you on your butt. Like,
you have an aversion to it.
Right. And so now obviously that's something I'm super comfortable with because I did it for like a year. So I was very like right from the beginning wanted to kind of strengthen my weak spots, saw where I was weak, and had people telling me where I was weak and strengthen that.
Cool. So when you first started out, you were at this Gracie Academy doing jiu-jitsu, and then who were you doing your striking with? Was it also at that gym?
Yeah, so he had like I said, he was a Renzo Gracie black belt, and he had also trained up with Mike Tyson in the Catskills. So he had like good hands, like very good boxing coach, and I was fortunate. He was a very like smart coach in the whole like mindset of hitting people and not getting hit. So I had that from the beginning. He was not one of those guys that's like, yeah, just stand in the middle and bang kind of thing.
Take them down if they come at you.
Right. He was very big on like head movement angles.
Cool.
So like from the beginning of my career, I kind of like was playing with that stuff.
What a great base.
Yeah, and I kind of just built my style around that, like with my wrestling and then the head movement and all that. So.
How would you describe your style, your fight style?
I don't know. I mean, like, obviously I always have the wrestling base, but it's funny because, like, ever since being out here, people at Elevation, they, like, think I'm a striker for whatever reason. So, I don't know.
That's a compliment.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I consider myself well-rounded for sure. It's just nice to know that I always have that grappling to fall back on, kind of.
Right.
But I got a couple knockouts in my amateur career, and I just fell in love with, like, that feeling. Yeah. So, yeah, I love, like, all aspects of the game for sure.
So, you're in New York, you go to this academy, and what, you're 19 years old?
Yeah, I was 18 when I moved out.
18 when you moved out?
Yep.
So you take your first fight around 18, 19?
Yep. I think I was 19 when I took that fight. So.
Okay. What happened in your first fight?
So the first fight, I choked him in like a minute. He just, I had the full like adrenaline tunnel vision, just snapped him down and like guillotined him real quick. And then after the fact, I was like, man, I really wish I could have like stayed in there longer. You know what I mean? And my coach was like, no, like that's good. Like keep doing that.
Yeah.
But so my first 3 fights were like, they were finishes right in a row, like in 1 minute kind of thing. And then my fourth fight, I went into that fight like with bad bronchitis.
Oh, jeez.
I went out, tried to like finish him super hard. Ended up winning by unanimous decision, but kind of like had to fight through that. So that helped me a lot, like mentally, I think, doing that, fighting 3 rounds.
Yeah, what are you thinking after your first fight? I mean, obviously you said, you felt like you should have gotten more ring time or cage time. Yeah. But, like, was that the point where you're like, oh, I know this is for me?
Yeah, it was like, because I had obviously won a lot in high school wrestling. It was just such a different feeling. And obviously I hadn't even knocked him out or anything. Just getting your hand raised, like, you're the only one in the cage. It's just such a good feeling. And I was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing for sure.
So how long between your first fight and your second fight?
That one I think was like a quick turnaround. So it was weird. I would like fight a couple times, and then I think like the first 3 were pretty close together. I would go back to New York for a couple months, kind of like, what am I doing with my life? And then like be like, all right, I'm going back down. Go back down, take some more fights, train.
Are you working at all? Like, how are you supporting it?
Yeah, I was like bouncing between jobs, and that's what I mean. So like, it was just
doing enough.
Yeah, doing enough, but also just not really like looking at it realistically. Honestly, I was like training like I was going to be in the UFC, and I like didn't want to work full time and all this. I was like, no, I just need to train, win fights, and like the rest will take care of itself. Yeah. My parents are like, no, like you got to work and support yourself, like not just be fighting. You know what I mean? So that was kind of like a dilemma I had for a couple years, just like going back and forth. But it was something I always came back to, and I felt like there were so many people telling me like I could take it somewhere.
I mean, I've heard this a handful of times, like the parents that don't necessarily want you to be doing something where you're putting yourself at risk and your health at risk.
Right.
But you have people, it sounds like you're saying the people directly around you that are seeing you day in and day out, putting your nose to the grindstone, they're saying, hey, man, you could really do something with this.
Yeah, and like that's what I was trying to convince my parents. I was like, I'm telling you, like, just like let me keep doing it.
But at the same time, they're in the back of your head creating this conflict.
Yeah, they're super supportive. They've been at all my fights and everything.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah, they've never like missed a fight or anything. They're realistic people, you know what I mean?
Sure.
They want me to like have a good life.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of, they haven't seen anyone close to them like make it successfully with the fighting.
Right. That makes sense.
But I think moving out here, being on this team, the Elevation team, has like really helped that. They've kind of seen some of the people I train with. They just watched Neil Magny this weekend fight.
Yeah,
like they're like, oh, okay, like
what a beast.
Yeah, he's one of my like sparring partners, you know what I mean? So
Man, even Hubbard.
Right, yeah.
Hubbard's a monster.
All the guys there. So like to them it's kind of put that more into perspective now. It's something a little more realistic.
Yeah.
Where before I was just like going around the East Coast taking amateur fights. So
Sure. Yeah, it gives them a visual.
Yes.
A visual example of success.
Right.
So did they come out for this most recent fight?
Yeah, they did. They did.
Cool. That's
so
really cool. I mean, they're traveling from New York to Colorado to watch you fight. That's
they're definitely fans. They can act like they like don't like it, but like I said, they've been at every fight. So
cool. All right. So then your first 4 fights, you win. They're pretty back to back to back. It looks like 2015 was your first fight, and then you got a knockout, round 1 knockout in your 6th fight, and then you take that short notice fight with where you go up a weight class.
Yeah. So the fight where I knocked out the kid in a minute, that was for a title in Virginia.
Okay.
As a welterweight. So I did that, and I was kind of like, I was 5-0. I was like, I'm either gonna go pro or like stop. I honestly like was having that whole dilemma. Like,
what was the thought about why maybe stopping?
It was like a money thing, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I just was bouncing between jobs, kind of like I felt like I was in limbo. Went back up to New York like I always did, and got like a really good job opportunity. And I was working up there full time, and I was like, man, I'm making money now.
Right.
Like, I don't know what I want to do. And then, like I said, it was that fight I went to, and I just like got that itch again. I was like, no, this is what I need to be doing.
Cool. So you won 2 amateur titles then?
Yeah. Yep.
And then what is that actual decision process of going pro? I mean, were you saying before that final fight, if this goes well, I go pro?
So that 5th fight I had for the welterweight title in Virginia, that one was the one where I was like, if I'm 5-0, I'm gonna go pro.
Okay.
But I won that, and there was kind of like like I said, there was no high level pros on the team I was on, so it was hard. Like there was no path, I guess you would say. When I went back to New York and took that fight, that was on like a big platform, had a lot of people see that fight. And then to me, it was like, if I can bump up a weight class and like not even have a good training camp and still win, I should be a pro. Like I shouldn't be fighting amateurs at this point.
And your 2nd amateur title too.
Right. So I was just like, if I'm going to do that, I need to be on an actual professional team. I can't just do what I did this last camp and like take a pro fight.
Are you talking to anyone about this? Like, are you bouncing your ideas off someone, or is this all just going through your head?
Honestly, it was a lot of like my coworkers in New York that I was working with at the time, like people my age and stuff.
Did they have experience in MMA, or they're just
No,
people
not
that
at
you're
all.
like venting to and getting it off
these
your
are
chest?
super like blue collared folk, and like I'm like riding around the trucks with them each day. I'm just like kind of like complaining. I'm like, man, I feel like I should be doing more in my life, and probably because that's all they do. Obviously, is just work full time. So they're probably like, this kid, like, what's he thinking? And but yeah, like I said, after that fight, I came out here and visited for a week to do like the tryout week with Elevation.
Cool.
Got back and like told my boss, like, yeah, I'm gonna leave in a month and move out to Colorado. And
You were sold.
yeah.
What was it about coming out here that just sold you?
It was like the first day I was here. I went, like I said, I was with Caleb at the time visiting, and we went to like a pound for pound practice and the Elevation Pro practice right after, and I was just like so tired. Obviously, like the altitude kind of was affecting me too.
Okay.
But I was like, the push I'm getting is nothing like, because I felt pretty good as an amateur. Like in the gym I was at is a Henzo Gracie gym and stuff, and I felt like I was doing good with all the people I was going with. And I came out here and I was just like, oh, like I'm not even close to where I want to be. Yeah, there's absolutely levels. So I was kind of sold. I was like, if I'm going to do it, this is where I need to be. Like I said, I was looking at some other academies, but the room was just so big at Elevation, and they're very cool people, wealth of knowledge. Like no one's really to themselves. They're all willing to help you.
Yeah.
So I was sold right away, honestly.
So you didn't feel like you were being overlooked necessarily because the room's so big? Like there's still plenty of people that give you attention?
Yeah. At first, obviously, because it is such a big room, I feel like, they're not overlooking you, but there's just so many people they have to work with, and there's only so many coaches. But recently, I think that, they see the work I'm putting in and the rounds I'm getting with people, and now it's starting to change a little bit. So
how do you figure out who your coaches are?
That was something I just kind of, like, I got out here, like I said, and got into the schedule I was in with pound for pound Elevation. With the wrestling background, Dave always just kind of, like, that drew me in a little bit. He's a very high-level wrestler. I knew Dave, like, before I even got to the team.
Really?
His credentials and stuff. Yeah.
Right,
so,
right. He's a stud.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was someone I just wanted in my corner. I think with my game, it's good to have someone who knows, like, high-level wrestling. And then Justin, obviously, has just helped me tremendously with my striking. Like I said, I felt good with my striking before, but there was so much stuff I was doing wrong, like defensively and just little stuff that he tweaked. Now I feel like very confident in my striking. So
Good. And then Cody Donovan's been more of a newer addition.
Yeah, he wasn't in my corner the last time. He's just super busy with a lot of the guys,
Yeah,
but
he is.
I've been putting in time with him with the grappling and everything.
Right.
I think he sees it. So I just asked him this past one. He said yeah. So we've been getting some work in as well. So
Very cool. And can you have 3 people in your corner at LFA?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. What about Colorado Combat Club?
I could have had 3. Yeah, I just didn't. So
Sure. Neat. So I mean, 'cause some places only let you have 2, right?
yeah. Yep.
But LFA is pretty flexible in that regard. And the UFC, they let you have 3, I'm pretty sure. Most cards, at least.
Yeah, most of the pro cards I've seen are 3.
Okay.
So
Neat. So this is something that you plan to stick with as far as this is a mix that you found and you like the way it works.
yeah, we'll obviously see how it goes this fight with like
Sure.
all 3 of them in my corner.
Sure.
But I feel like that's like a great corner personally. I feel like I got like a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
and then not only a little bit of everything, but like the best minds in each of those things.
yeah.
So
And can you hear them like while you're fighting?
yeah, that's something I've like gotten better at recently. Like my first couple fights, I had complete tunnel vision, was not listening at all. They were quick finishes, but I was just going for it kind of.
It works when you're doing well.
Right, exactly. And then I had that fight where I went to a decision, and I found myself when I was tired, like actually being able to hear my corner better.
Yeah.
So that was something that like recently I've became very like calm in there. I think the last one I was a little too calm, but that helps a lot. I think with hearing the corner and everything.
So for you, it's not so much like their voices stand out. For you, it's more of I got to relax a little bit and just listen for their voices.
Yeah, for sure. If I wouldn't say I like get that tunnel vision anymore, but I definitely like if I get hit or something, I'm kind of like, oh, just go.
Yeah.
But that composure is huge. I think to be able to like listen to your corner, they have eyes on the outside. They're seeing things that you're not seeing in there.
Right.
So and I have them in my corner for a reason. I trust their guidance. So
Yeah. Do you watch film on your opponents?
So yeah, I do. I don't like dwell on it a lot. I kind of what I do is like when I get a name, I'll kind of watch it at the beginning of my camp, like watch a couple of their fights. Obviously with this opponent I have, he hasn't fought in a couple years, and my last opponent hadn't fought in a couple years too. So to me, it's like you don't want to be stressing over film from like a fight 5 years ago. That person could be a completely different fighter at this point. But yeah, everyone I always like to like at least just check out, kind of like see what their tendencies are and stuff like that.
Sure.
But definitely I don't dwell on it. I like to implement my game plan.
Yeah, and so you do have a game plan going in?
Yeah, I guess you could say that this one, like I said, he's just like a tough, durable guy. So to me, that's like I just have to implement my game, not necessarily a game plan.
But I guess what I'm more asking is you don't think like, okay, I'm going to go out there, jab, try to take him down. You're more just letting the fight come to you and see what's available.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you kind of know going into fights like where the person's strength lies. But if they don't have a strength, to me, it's just like in the fight, you kind of got to feel where it's going. The last guy I fought, for example, was like a really good wrestler. The game plan was to sprawl and brawl, you know what I mean? Keep it on the feet. I felt like I had the wrestling to defend the takedowns and stuff. But then I end up getting clipped, taking him down, out-wrestling him, and ground and pound him to a finish. So it's like that's why I feel like you can't really get too hung up on a game plan. Yeah. Because it can change, a split second. So.
Yeah, and you were able to successfully adapt on the fly.
Yeah, right.
Beautiful. Do you feel like in your fights, I don't know if that was the first time you've ever been clipped or.
Yeah, it was.
Really? So, I mean, do you ever find like you're getting flurried and you're getting a little frustrated maybe with the striking, so you revert to the takedown? Or for you, it's always kind of, we just figure it out spot by spot we're in?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's like positional, like where we're at in the cage kind of thing. It is just a huge feel thing. I feel like if I like feel like a takedown's there, I'll take it.
Okay.
But I love being on the feet personally.
Yeah, what I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. So I mean, even though you have this extensive wrestling background, you're not trying to rely on that. That's not the way you want to win the fight. You want to win the fight in spectacular fashion.
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. And you've got a handful of finishes. 5 finishes out of your 7 fights overall. So I mean, clearly you're capable of taking the fight anywhere it goes. 2 of them submissions, the rest knockouts. Is that about right?
Yeah. Yep. Knockouts, cool. TKOs, submissions.
So for a wrestler, I mean, that's pretty impressive that you got more knockouts than you have submissions and more decisions.
Right? Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yep. So, like I said, it's great to have that wrestling base there. If I'm ever in a fight where I feel like I need to use it, I can use it. But it's definitely not something I like to. I don't want to go out there and just shoot double leg and take the guy down right away. So.
Sure. So who are your primary training partners when you're sparring?
So I'm getting a lot of work right now with, you mentioned Anthony Adams. Neil's giving me a lot of work.
These are big guys.
Yeah. I'm a welterweight myself. I'm finding that like lightweight might be in my future. There's just a lot of lightweights on the team.
Well,
we have
Neil
similar
is a
frames.
very large welterweight.
Yeah,
He's tall. He's
I
big.
did like all of Bojan's last camp with him.
He's a
a huge welterweight. Yeah, I was just like, man, I feel like this is not my weight class. But obviously, you know what I mean? It's great for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just seen a lot of the lightweights on the team, and I'm like, maybe that could be in my future. I've never like trained full time like this, so I'm kind of like hanging lower in body weight naturally.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see in the future.
So you're right now, you're 3 weeks out from your upcoming fight. Do you modulate your diet in camp, or is it generally the same throughout the year? Like you said, you feel like that's an edge that you get. So do you keep it clean throughout the year?
Yeah, I definitely keep it clean throughout the year. Like this is actually the point in camp where like we'll start modifying some calories and like the carbohydrates a little bit.
Dropping them or raising them?
It depends on the day. So like if it's a hard training day, I'll actually like up the carbs and the calories, and then I'll have like a low day where if I'm not training as much, and that kind of like equals out through total calories throughout the week. So
It's a very focused approach based on your activity level.
But it makes me like, I found, just because I haven't done it that way in the past, sometimes I'll like just cut my calories for like every day and try and diet it all off, but then you feel like crap in your training sessions. So I'd rather like feel good, like have some more calories in me and like feel really good in the training sessions, and then have a low day where I'm not doing anything. You know what I mean? Because I don't need the food that day. So.
And cutting weight's not a foreign idea to you. I mean, obviously from all your wrestling experience. Did you cut weight a lot when you were wrestling?
I did, not obviously as much as you do when you're in MMA. And when I started MMA, that was like a problem I had. Because in my head, I was like, oh, we have 24 hours to rehydrate, so I can just cut like 20 pounds and be fine. And like, thank God those first couple fights were quick finishes, because I would cut that much weight and then like knock the dude out in a minute. And like they'd be raising my hand, I'd be like gasping for breath kind of thing. I was like, I can't do that anymore. I got to like get down lower in weight.
Interesting. So even though you were winning, well within the 3 rounds, a lot of times in the first round, you've noticed that
I knew right away.
It was having an effect.
Yeah. I was like, man, if I had to go 3 rounds, like I don't know if I would have had the gas tank because of the weight cut. So now I get down like a lot closer to weight. I'm never cutting more than like 10 pounds of water.
Wow. The day before?
Yeah, this last time I did it the day of because it was a local fight.
Okay.
Yeah, in the past I've always done it the day before. So.
Neat. So what is your goal? So you're 3 weeks out. What do you walk around at normally?
Yeah, so I'm usually like in camp, if I'm like everything's on point, I'm like in between 185, 187. Okay. It's like a good wake up weight.
Yeah, that's not bad. 17 pounds.
Yeah.
Pounds.
And then I like to I'll get down to 180 probably like the week of the fight. And then that'll kind of even, like I'll float off some weight throughout the week when I start messing with the water and the salt.
Right.
And then usually like the day before weigh-ins and the day of weigh-ins, I like to be like 5 to 6 pounds.
Cool. And so, you kind of said it offhand, but, what this cutting strategy seems to be one that people utilize in Colorado a lot, like where, when I was growing up in wrestling, it was more like sweat it all out type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But water loading is what you're speaking to. So the week before your weigh-in, you're going to water load, cut out kind of salt and sodium so that you're not retaining the water. And then that naturally means you're going to eat a little bit less. And then 2 days, 3 days before you start limiting the water even.
Yeah, so I've played around with that in the past, like where I cut the water exactly. This last time I was water loading up until like the day before, and then I would just drink like a quarter gallon the day before and then float the rest.
Are you eating at all that day before?
Yeah, so that's something I think a lot of people mess up on. I'm still eating like 3 meals a day.
Really? Wow, cool.
It's no carbs, no salt. You just do like fats and proteins, but again, with like the feeling good in your training that week of your fight, you don't want to feel like crap going. Even though you're doing light workouts, I don't think you want to feel bad the week of your fight.
Yeah.
So I like to, definitely like eat my meals.
It's got to be beneficial mentally. I mean, physically, obviously, but mentally as well. You're like you said, you're not drained. You're not like angry and cranky.
For sure. I think personally, it helps me like cut a little more weight too. If you can go into your workouts with some more energy, you're gonna cut more weight than if you're just dragging the whole time.
Yeah.
So.
That's a great point. So then 2 days out from the fight, 1 day before the weigh-in, you want to be at least 10 pounds.
Yeah, 10 pounds is like goal the week of, honestly.
Okay.
And I'll start kind of floating that. Obviously, when you water load, you're going to be heavier.
Sure.
But then that all comes off right away.
But your body weight's kind of going down. Like the weight's up because a gallon of water is 8 pounds, and you're drinking that consistently, but you're eating less throughout that last week. So you're within 10 pounds on your normal eating, normal drinking cycle.
Right.
That last week, you're water loading, kind of changing water for food, but you're still eating enough.
Yes.
And you're going to lose like a pound or 2 or 3.
So that's the thing with the water loading and the salt's crazy. Sometimes you'll like go to bed really heavy because you've water loaded all day.
Yeah.
But then you have no salt in your system, so you wake up in the morning, you'll float like, or I do anyway, like 3 to 4 pounds or something crazy, and even more sometimes. So that I think helps, and then you kind of just stay at that weight throughout the day. You know what I mean? Your water's coming down throughout the week, so that helps a lot too. But I think I got it down pretty good now.
Cool. So where do you want to be the day before? Like the day either of weigh-ins or day before weigh-ins?
Day of weigh-ins, I mean, like ideally I would love to be 175.
Yeah.
That's like a perfect cut to me. Is 5 pounds go in. It's like not stressful, very easy.
Is that a sauna cut for the last part?
Yeah, I've always done the sauna. This last time I was doing like a sauna and the hot tub because the gym I was at had a hot tub too.
Sure.
And it was not a lot of weight, so I was like, I'll just go between the two. But I feel like super comfortable in the sauna.
Nice.
Doing that growing up, so.
Nice. And have you ever missed weight?
No.
Cool. So it works out.
Yeah. Yep.
Neat. So 170, and you're saying that you might theoretically maybe think about 155 in the future, though?
Yeah, I like I said, I kind of like want to see how it goes and everything. I view myself as a welterweight. It's just being around these high level lightweights and welterweights and stuff. I'm seeing like kind of the frames of these people.
Oh, like Drew Dober.
Yeah, and
it's a lightweight.
Right, exactly. And I just think that like frame wise, I'm more like a lightweight than a welterweight. I would say.
But it'd be a significant cut, it sounds like. I mean, if you're walking around 185, even if, let's say you cut down to 180, not cut, but like naturally went down to 180, still a 30-pound cut.
For sure. It would be like, that's kind of the thing I got to like decide on is if I want to do a cut that big.
Right.
I know a lot of people do it, but I like feeling good. I think I like my nutrition's good enough. All that is in check. Yeah. It's like, why would I cut all the weight if I feel good?
That's another point. I mean, I like your approach to it. I like that you're feeling comfortable eating all the meals so you feel good during the weight cut and up to your fight. But, other people that maybe are cutting that much, they might not be eating that clean throughout the year. They might have more like fat and stuff to cut.
That's why I think these people get bad weight cuts is because they're like kind of screwing off in between camps.
For sure. And
then a fight comes around, they're like, all right, I'm gonna like lose this weight. By the time the fight comes, and their whole focus is losing weight. I like changed my whole mindset. I want my whole focus to be performance.
Right.
I don't really care so much about the weight loss and all that.
Yeah.
That'll come. You know what I mean? If you're performing high. So.
Hey, Frankie Edgar won a championship doing that.
Exactly.
Cool.
I think the big thing going up to that middleweight fight, like, put this idea in my head too that like weight's not a huge thing because that guy didn't feel super strong to me. And I was just like, if I can do that, I feel like I can hang out at welterweight.
I start thinking that, and then I see something in the UFC where it's like a Max Holloway versus, I can't remember who he fought, but the size difference was so
Poirier,
big. Poirier, I was like, oh my goodness, dude, that dude is just bigger than him.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
And his punch just hurt a little bit more, but
yeah,
something you figure out over your career. Like you said, you're so green in it.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got this big upcoming fight, LFA, which is a good opportunity and against a good opponent, a good matchup for you.
For sure.
He's a local guy too, Trials MMA,
mm-hmm.
big stage in Broomfield for Spank Center. So obviously the desired outcome here is a spectacular win.
Yeah.
How long do you take off after a win or a loss from a fight?
So, yeah, it's obviously been wins. I tell myself, like, no matter what, I'm going to take a week off after every fight. That's kind of like my reset. Yep. Just because I feel like I go so hard during my camps and year-round, obviously, this is something I've dedicated myself to, that I can, like, give myself a week of relaxation. Like I said, the last time I went home after the fight, came back, right back to it. But I kind of, like, need that week, I feel like. It's like a good mental reset. You kind of refocus what your goals are and everything. And you get back with a fresh mindset. So
that's another good point. You kind of refocus your goals. Up to this point, this is probably the primary goal, at least the short-term goal in your mind.
Exactly.
So you got to reassess and set a new target.
Right, yeah. I see some people, like, they come right back after their fights. I don't know if it's like a mental thing for them or they want people to see them training right after.
Sure.
But I've never understood that. I think it's, like, super important to at least take a week or, like, even if not a full week, like a couple days off. Take the weekend off. You know what I mean?
That adrenaline dump alone is so big.
Yeah, right. And, like, I've been lucky. I haven't taken, like, a lot of damage in my fight. So, like, that's not, like, I probably could go back to train that Monday.
Sure.
I just don't want to. It's like a mental thing.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Cool. So then if you could think back to the beginning of your career, I mean, maybe not wrestling, right? Wrestling, you probably were focused on wrestling, but maybe when you're 18, 19 years old, what was your goal at that time? I mean, when you first went into this academy, he invited you down. He said, hey, I see something in your wrestling where I think, you could potentially be good at MMA. What were you thinking? Like, what was the goal? Yeah,
so I might have been like a little naive, but I went down there with the mindset like I want to be in the UFC. Like just right away, like even before my first fight, I was like, I've just always been like, if you're gonna do something, you kind of like need to do it. And I feel like in MMA that means making it to the UFC or like a Bellator or something like that.
Sure.
For me, it's the UFC though. That to me is like the one. My parents, for example, like they only know the UFC.
Right.
So that's like I made it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, right. So I don't know. I think that is like the end goal for sure, making it to the UFC. But
so it's still a goal. It's maintained throughout this period of time.
Oh yeah. It's like I said, at times you kind of like go back and forth with it. You're just in like weird spots in your life and stuff, but something I've always came back to. Like it's the only thing that really like interests me a lot. And I don't know. I just think this is what I'm like meant to do is to fight the highest level. So
you're 24, right? So you've been on this journey for 6 years now. So I mean, you still got a period. Let's say 10 years, right? 10 years is kind of where we start seeing people hit the UFC. 10 years of training.
Yep.
Some people do a little sooner, but 10 years is kind of that point where they're running, right? They're running with their career.
For sure.
But you also have this wrestling foundation. You know, you've spent since 6th grade doing that. So that adds a whole another 12 years or 10 years or so.
For sure.
So do you view the UFC opportunity as I'll take it as soon as it's available? Or do you view it as something where you want to have X number of fights under your belt before you take it?
For me, I want to take it as soon as possible. I mean, especially being in this gym where I'm at now, I'm kind of like seeing where I stand with the high level people. And I'm like, I'm ready, you know, and like I want to go. Especially with the management I have now and everything, they're making it sound like, you know, I mean, you get a couple good fights under you, get like a good win streak going. That contender series is like very possible. That's like right in my radar kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's like super obtainable. Being out here is like really put in perspective.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's got to feel cool, too, for you. I mean, it's cool to see from the outside, but it's definitely got to feel nice for you.
Yeah,
and
sure.
that is an interesting segue that's kind of become more available now. You know, whether you go LFA or Victory or whatever you do, you hit that platform, you do well, and now you don't necessarily have to win a championship within that organization to get the call up. You could get that Dana White Contender Series fight,
right?
You know, impress them there, and then get the call up. So you're down for that. You'd take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take like the best opportunities for sure. That was kind of something for a while. I was like, well, I'm just gonna keep winning, and that manager had to like really tell me like, no, like there's like a path. You know what I mean? To do this, there's people that have like 20 fights and they never make it anywhere, and there's people that have 5 fights in the UFC.
Right.
So it's like it's all, you know what I mean? The path. So
yeah,
I think I'm on the right path now. So
Yusuf Zalal, just Factory X guy, but he just got called up to the UFC and was on that kind of similar path. You know, he's 8-2 now, 7-2 when he went into the UFC. So it's clearly doable, and you know he won his debut. He did well. So
yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So like I said, very like obtainable being out here. You see it firsthand. So
How many fights do you like to have a year? Like if it was your ideal situation?
Yeah, ideally, like now that I'm training full time and everything, I would love to fight 3 to 4 times this year. At least 3. But 4 would be like my perfect year. You know what I mean?
Okay.
This one's obviously in April, but I'm looking if everything goes as planned to do a quick turnaround.
So when was your last one? Your last one? Oh, but your last one was in December. I mean, so you're on that pace.
Yeah, for sure. I consider that obviously like last year or whatever, but I'm ready this year. You know, I mean, training the way I am, I think 3 fights is super doable.
Cool. And so, like we said, you have that 1 fight contract for the LFA. Obviously, if you win and win well, then it's likely that, you know, it opens up conversation about a long-term contract.
For sure.
And if you don't feel comfortable answering this, that's okay. But, you know, do you look at other organizations if that isn't immediately available just to stay busy and keep that record going and get the experience?
Yeah, I mean, now, obviously, I'm going to kind of leave that up to my manager.
Sure.
But we're definitely not, like, just sold on LFA. That was just, like, a super good opportunity. They're coming through Denver. I would love to kind of, like, win an LFA belt.
Yeah.
There's a lot of LFA champs that have been called up as well.
I think pretty much all of them.
Yeah, but there's huge promotions everywhere. There's a couple, the way it's been told to me is like a couple big promotions that the UFC like looks at as like feeder promotions.
Yeah.
So if you fight for any of them, your chances are really good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Neat. Well, I'm very excited for you, man.
Thank you.
It's an awesome opportunity at 1-0 too.
Yeah.
But like we said, 7-0 overall. It's a mixed martial artist. Never been beaten yet. So if you had to give a tip to a young aspiring fighter, someone that's up and coming, maybe they're still a wrestler, or maybe they're, you know, traveling down to their first academy after getting the invite, what would that be?
I would just say like chase your goals. Don't listen to outside people. Do it like you want to do. I think that was big for me. If I would have like listened to people, I probably wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? Talking to you now. So you really gotta just decide what you want to do, whatever that is, and just go for it. I think.
Cool, and you've done a great job of that, man. Immersed yourself, dove in head first, and you're crushing it. So it's awesome. I look forward to seeing your fight.
Thank you.
How can people follow you and your career online?
Yeah, so I'm active on Instagram. That's just Ryan_Charlebois.
He answers his DMs too.
Yes. And other than that, that's pretty much the only social media I'm on.
Cool.
But I'm trying to stay a lot more active on that this year too.
Cool. So go give him a follow and subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Prize Fighting Business, and you can follow us on Instagram as well.
Sweet.
Awesome, Ryan.
Thanks
a lot, man.
Appreciate it.
That's fun.